And so after a few nights, it really started arising where I was just like, I can't feel my body. I've been sucking my thumb and I didn't even realize it. How long have I been like this? How long have I not been able to feel my body? What is happening to me? What am I trying to protect myself from? And it was asking those questions that in that moment was when I began the spiral. Have you ever felt like you're living your life on autopilot, but you don't even realize it? Or that there's a quiet hum in the background of your mind, always on, always alert, but not quite loud enough to tune into? Well, that was me up until last summer when I decided to finally tune into these channels, and it changed everything. And that's because beneath the surface, there was an entire channel of thoughts running, silently and hyper-aware, but also pulling the strings in everything that I was doing. And it was wild, it was unnerving, but it was also the first time I was bringing light to the shadows that lurked within my brain. And when it happened, it changed everything because it's what sent me into a mental institution. Here's the story. Hi everyone, I'm JC, and at this point in the story, I am now freaking out because I can't feel my body. I don't know how long I haven't been able to feel my body, and my face is hurting so much that I should have gotten some morphine level pain medication for relief, but I don't go to doctors. I don't like doctors. And so I was really just aware of how unaware I was about everything in my life. And so after bringing attention to my face, to my body, I started bringing attention to my thoughts, kind of for the first time. And this was harder to do, to pay attention to my thoughts, because there's a lot of them. They're kind of nonstop. I'm what you would call a yapper, so you can imagine what kind of chaos is going on in the noggin. So asking myself to listen to my thoughts is kind of a tough ask because it's kind of like I'm always talking to myself in there, but I'm never listening at the same time, you know? And tangent, but does anybody else feel like their brain is a chaotic radio station and you're the DJ just trying to pick a song, but all of your playlists are playing at once and for some reason there's a dubstep remix of your grocery list mixed in there? Because that's what it feels like in my brain all the time. I kind of always thought I had ADHD, but like I was like smarter than everyone, like I could handle all of the thoughts, like I didn't need medication, I was smart enough to handle it all. Maybe it's all the TikToks I watch that it's really just my attention span. But if you guys think I'm annoying, just know I have to deal with all this yapping in my brain 24/7 times 10. Enjoy that math homework. Anywho, so I kind of just started going for these walks and really started listening to what my brain had to say. So in the mix of them, because there were a lot of them, I kind of started noticing some thoughts that had a very different tone to them. It wasn't fearful, it wasn't scared, it was more like it was protective and alert. And the more I kind of started gauging that tone, the more that channel became clearer and clearer. So this protective voice while I was going on my walks, it was kind of like, oh, here comes a man, be careful. Here comes a car, look out. Oh, here comes a dog, don't let it bite you. It was like a fearful tone and kind of like keeping an eye out for everything, but without the fear, if that makes sense. And so once I became aware of this stream of thoughts, I was able to tune into it more and more. And the more I realized that it wasn't just every now and then, it was kind of nonstop, especially when I was out for these walks. And they just got stronger and more demanding. It was things like, oh, cover your body so nobody can see your body. Make sure that man doesn't grab you. Make sure that dog doesn't bite you. Check your surroundings to make sure nobody's following you. And I was so in my head listening, and I could see how it was just this nonstop, constant stream of protection. And when I first heard it, I wasn't even immediately alarmed. If anything, I kind of chalked it up to the fact that I love scary movies.
So fun fact about me, I almost exclusively watch scary movies. But when it comes to movies, I only watch scary movies. And I'm probably just gonna put on a movie that's scary, knowing me. I watch a lot of scary movies, you guys, what can I say?
And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe because I watch scary movies all the time, I have heightened anxiety levels. But then I also kind of chalked it up to, I also watch a lot of true crime as well.
So I watch true crime all the time. I don't know if I've mentioned that because it's not like I'm watching any show in particular. I'm just always consuming true crime.
Because I watch a lot of true crime.
I've heard a lot of true crime stories about it, but I haven't seen this documentary yet.
Like a freaking true crime documentary.
We watch a lot of true crime.
But I wasn't concerned. If anything, I was like, good job, JC. You're a good true crime student, you know? You know that anybody can hurt you and that people are capable of anything, so you're protecting yourself against it all. It's probably not what it is. It's probably that I make myself panic more because I'm watching true crime and scary movies, but that's beside the point. But once I tuned into this once passive voice in my head of protection, I realized again, running theme throughout this whole series, is how nonstop it was and how unaware that I was about everything. And it was kind of scary hearing it all the time, but it made me realize, wait, I actually did used to always think like this because I verbalized a lot of those thoughts in the past. And so at first I was concerned because I was like, am I about to get murdered? My brushes with murder. He tried to murder me. How about instead of worrying about getting raped in my own apartment, possibly how I almost got kidnapped or raped and murdered in a hotel room, where to come kidnap me and how to get in so they can complete the murder that I'm sure was about to happen. Murder.
Which means they could come and find me and murder me.
Line backing the door to protect myself from getting murdered.
A murderer.
These robbers were gonna come to my apartment and murder me. That's what you're gonna lead with, is like, so where can I come to murder you? Are you insane?
So no maintenance man can come and tie me up and murder me.
Just gotta keep checking to make sure I'm not gonna get murdered from behind. I think we're good. So in real time, I'm discovering like, oh no, did my love for true crime make me though so fearful of being murdered? And side note, it probably does seem like I'm the boy who cried wolf, or I'm making up these fake outlandish story times just for views. No, you guys have to believe me. These are all real. I really did know a murderer. I really truly do think I was almost human trafficked. And I really did have a couple brushes with murder. These are all real. You can go back and watch those videos and you tell me if I'm wrong.
Everybody wants to kidnap me.
I don't know, I get myself into kooky situations sometimes, but they're all real, so I feel like I have a valid reason to fear murder, okay? Moving right along, Ski. So yeah, so I was just kind of passively listening to these voices in my head, and again, it didn't feel like I was thinking them, it just kind of felt like they were happening, and I was observing them. But then I started observing my body, because I realized, wait, I was so in deep with the thoughts that I didn't realize what my body was doing during this time. And that was also very illuminating. So I started going for these walks and trying to dual listen to my thoughts and watch my body. And I started realizing how connected they were and how the thoughts were pulling the strings in my actions. And once again, I didn't even realize it was happening. So I'd go for these walks and I would go, oh, here comes a man, don't let him grab you. And so I would see that my body would take me into the middle of the street and walk around him. That's weird. My thought would be, oh, don't let people see your body, so cover your body. I'd kind of start using my eyes and become present for the first time and realize, oh my gosh, I'm standing behind a light pole waiting for the crosswalk to go. I was literally cowering behind a light pole so that cars driving by couldn't look at me and perceive my body, because I know for a fact that like you get honked at a lot in LA and it's really icky, and I could feel like, oh, that's what I'm protecting myself from. Literally in the moment. I'd be going for my walks, and when I'd pass a man, I would then look behind me and keep checking behind me to make sure he wasn't following me. I then started noticing, I'd look down at my hand, I had my keys in my hands like I was freaking Wolverine, and I had no idea that I was ready to go to battle subconsciously.
This place is great, you know? It's whimsical and fun.
What are you looking at, motherfucker?
And then I kept noticing, I would come to, and it's like, wait, why did my music stop playing? When did that happen? I would start noticing that it would be like, uh-oh, I passed somebody, let me make sure that they're not following me, turn down my music so I can be aware of my surroundings. And then I would just never turn it back on, and I'd be so encased and immersed in my own thoughts that I didn't even realize that my stimulation had stopped. And it was so eerie seeing how protective my thoughts were, but also how protective my actions were. Now I kind of also, again, trying not to freak myself out, I chalked it up to, oh, well, this is my routine. I take this walk all the time, that it's all very automatic. So like, if anything, I'm just protecting myself because I know what could happen in this neighborhood, no big deal. But then I had to go cat sit for my brother. He also lives in LA, but I was like, okay, we're getting out of our usual routine. Let's bring awareness to all these things and see if it's a day-to-day thing or more if it's like an actual problem. But seeing all of this outside of my normal routine was even spookier because my brother has a pool. I love using his pool because I do not have a pool. But I go down to the pool and I'm just like, it was an outer body experience where I'm like watching myself do all these things and think all these things without actually being the one to do it or think it. Because I go, okay, tie my bag around the leg of my chair so nobody can grab my bag. Put my phone underneath all of my stuff so nobody can walk by and grab my phone. Uh-oh, somebody is coming to the pool and it's a man. Cover up your body so he can't look at your near naked body. And then it was, okay, put your headphones in so people at the pool don't talk to you, but also don't play music so you can hear if they're trying to talk to you and you can protect yourself. And it was like, this whole time I couldn't even enjoy a relaxing day by the pool. I was so worried about getting robbed or getting oogled at that I couldn't even relax. Has this been going on this whole time? Have I always been like this? And I just didn't even realize it? I need to calm down. And then it's like, you know, while I was also cat sitting for him, I walked out for coffee and I looked down and there's keys in my hand. I'm crossing the street to avoid men. I'm grinning at men to make sure that they know I'm polite and so I don't become an easy target kind of thing. And it was just non-stop. And I really just started noticing a pattern of being so wary of men, so prepared for anything that they could possibly do to me, but also so protective of women was another thing I started noticing, where when I'd be on my walks at night and I'd see a woman and I'm walking like at a faster pace and coming up behind her, I would cross the street, walk ahead of her, and then cross back over because I wanted to make sure she knew I wasn't a threat. When I take the bus, because I love me my public transportation, a woman would come on the bus, I start scanning to make sure that nobody is targeting her, to make sure nobody's oogling at her, nobody's gonna rob her. I was alert for the other women around me. But during all of this, I realized that the main target of all my fear was men. And it really did make me reflect on, yeah, that has been a very passive, subconscious stream of thoughts. But it's again, this fear of men is something that I do verbalize quite often.
I need to protect myself and not piss this guy off who clearly has anger issues and has hurt women in the past.
You know, sometimes you think you know somebody and you don't. The best you can do is try to protect yourself and be wary of your own surroundings.
Very creepy, very scary, and I know I'm laughing about it, but that could be a terrifying situation.
He could have gotten angry, he could have gotten violent. He had me alone in a place that, you know, neither of us had been before. Something bad really could have happened.
And thankfully, this didn't turn into some weird stalker story where, and then he came into the store every day for the next 2 weeks.
I am alone in a train car with this singular man in front of me. So right away, my heart just kind of starts beating and I'm like, okay, stay calm, like it's fine. If he tries to talk to you, like don't say anything, try not to make him angry, you know, that's already, I'm in a terrifying predicament.
And in the past, I have never, ever considered that I had anxiety because to me, anxiety is worrying. I never felt like I was worried about anything. I felt prepared for anything. And it's a different feeling. And once I became aware of all of that, I couldn't turn it off. So once I decided to take an inner look in my brain and actually reflect, I was spooked, you know, my heebies were jeebied, but I realized I needed to figure this out. So because I couldn't really turn it off, it wasn't really an option to ignore it. And I realized that it was imperative to study it. Imperative. Brick heck. So I would study it when I'd go for I started calling them my fear walks. I would go on my fear walks and I would take note of my actions and my thoughts. You know, I'm cat sitting for my brother, I'm studying all of that. But then I didn't even realize, did not even occur to me that it starts to trickle into my home life. And I didn't think that I'd be so fearful in my apartment, but turns out I was terrified. So here's what I observed. I would come home from my fear walks at night. I would walk into my apartment, my lights are off, I'd walk straight towards the windows and I'd go and I close all the curtains. I make sure all of my curtains are closed before I turn on the lights. But then throughout the night, it was this weird recurring pattern of turning off the lights, reclosing all of my curtains to make sure there was no sliver of light coming through, turning the lights back on, And then I would go and change my clothes and I would wash my hands. And it was this weird pattern that kept repeating of get up, turn off the lights, close the curtains, turn the lights back on, change my clothes, wash my hands. And it had that same tone of fear, but without the fear, like the protectiveness and the alertness going on. And so I realized it wasn't just outside I was doing these things, it was inside. And that I was part of the problem, which is great. I love being a part of things. But I kept doing this pattern, and bookending each time, I would like start an entirely new task. So it's like I'd be making dinner, be worried that somebody could see me through the curtains, start that whole process, but then go start another task. Because when I went into my room to change my clothes, I would think, oh, let me reorganize my closet. Let's declutter right now. Oh, wait, let me close the curtains again. And oh, while I'm in the living room, actually, you know what? I've been meaning to start this art project. What do you say? Let's start it now. Haha. And then I have to go wash my hand 10 more times. And it was like throughout the night, I was just going into this weird system of movements throughout my apartment of starting tasks, closing curtains, washing my hands. And I was seeing it happen out of my body and going, JC, what the frick frack are you doing?
Again! Again! Again!
And it's like, I felt productive during it, you know? During my nights, I always felt like I was constantly doing something. But I'd kind of zoom out and I realized I'm not really doing anything. Well, tangent, I mean, sometimes it was productive because I did get some fun art projects done. Actually, let me show you one. I just did this one. Oh, be careful. Careful now. So my sister, she used to make earrings, but I don't really wear the earrings a lot, so I still wanted to commemorate her business. So I made this like beautiful shadow box of all of her earrings. So that way I could display them and have in my home all of the fruits of her labor. And so when people come over, I could go, look how talented my sister was. Isn't it beautiful? So some nights, instead of eating dinner, I decide to do random impulsive crafts like that, you know? Actually, I see where the impulsiveness comes from. I just did it right then and there. Anyways, so it was weird seeing it from this perspective now, because in the past, I remember like Googling if I had OCD, because I would notice some of these tendencies a lot. But you know, in my research, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm not like tapping my door handle 10 times because I'm worried my mom will die. Like there was never that basis of thought that was linked to something very fearful happening. You know, like it didn't feel like the traditional symptoms of OCD. But now that I'm zooming out and seeing it, I was like, I don't know, this feels kind of OCD-ish, title of my memoir maybe. But then in the past, I was certain I had ADHD because of all of the starting of tasks and not being able to focus, not being able to finish a task in its entirety. But then I always chalked it up to manic episodes where, because I have bipolar, sometimes I would get so much energy that I'd feel like, oh, I have to do all the tasks right now while I have the energy, and I would chalk it up to hypomania. But now that I'm seeing all of the thoughts and my actions coming together, I truly was at a loss, because I was like, what is happening to me? What is happening to me? Because this was something unconscious. This was something automatic. And this was something that was really starting to scare me, because all I kept thinking was like, please, the plot has thickened enough. Can it please thin out for once in my life? And another really weird thing that I kept noticing kept happening throughout my nights was I would get so scared of seeing a bug, but 99% of the time, I never saw a bug. So in all of that like weird automation that was happening, because the lights would be turned off, I would see things on the ground, weird shadows, a little piece of string, and I started noticing I would audibly gasp and do a full body flinch thinking it was a cockroach. Now, this doesn't sound unlike me because I hate cockroaches.
But then I'm also panicking because I'm like, are there about to be just a ton of cockroaches and bugs in my apartment? Like, are they all getting scared away and scurrying on over to my place? I don't know how fumigation works, but now I'm getting worried.
Guys, it's literally already happening. There's 2 cockroaches in my bathtub.
I'm like scared to even go into my own bathroom. And there's another one.
I walk around my apartment so trepidatiously, just waiting to see one, and I killed 2 in the past 2 days. And they're like the big cockroaches. Like, they're not little ones, they're like big ones that I see out of the corner of my eye, and they scare me, and I feel like I have to defeat it with some spray.
God. Okay. Hang on, it's on the outside. It's on the outside. Wait, look. Oh my God, am I all, like it can't come in, right? Okay, okay. Oh my God, that gave me the biggest scare. Oh no. Oh no, I don't see the other one. Oh my God, no. There's 3.
There was.
But I started noticing how I was just constantly scanning for them. Throughout my nights, I would kind of just constantly do a scan of the room and be like, oh, okay, it's not a cockroach. Oh, okay, that's just a little string on the floor. And it wasn't that often, but it was noticeable to the point of, why am I scanning for bugs? And why am I so scared? Because if I saw a bug, I would just get rid of it. But it was something that I couldn't turn off. It couldn't turn it off. But I think the overarching thing of all of these things that I'm mentioning is that I never caught it as it was happening. I was still very new to even observing all of this, that I couldn't see that I was doing it until 2 steps later. So it wasn't until I was changing my clothes that I'd be like, wait a second, I did just close my curtains again, and the lights are off. I didn't even realize I did that, but yeah, I did it. And then I would go through a few more motions, and then I would come to, it's like I would use my eyes again for the first time. I'd finally become present, and I'd look down at what I'm doing, and I'm like, wait, I started a new craft, and I'm wearing a new sweatshirt. What happened? Let me go back 2 steps. Oh my gosh, I did all those things again, and I didn't even realize it. So I started trying to track it as best as I could, because again, I couldn't notice it in real time. So I made this list in my journal. I have a lot of journals. I love journaling. Journaling is gonna be a big theme in this series because I documented a lot of things. I love journals.
My Birkin. Another Birkin. But what makes these 2 Birkins different? And what small feature about them divides the Hermes collector community? Let's talk about it.
But in my journal, I wrote, at the top I wrote, Scaredy Cat Files. That's what I decided to call this weirdly hyper-aware, hyper-alert version of myself. And I called it the Scaredy Cat Files, and I just tracked. During the night, I would just go and write down when I would do a weird thing, and I'd put a tally next to it. And there was one night, let me check. So in one night, I checked my curtains 10 times, and I turned the lights on and off 6 times. I changed my outfit 5 times, and I washed my hands 14 times. I audibly gasped and flinched 4 times thinking I saw a cockroach on the ground, and I started so many new tasks that I didn't eat dinner until 11:15 at night. That is a lot of disturbing actions. What does it total to? I don't know, don't ask me about math, I've moved on. So then I don't know what made me think to do this, but because it all felt so passive, I kind of just started to ask these thoughts. Hey buddy, hey girly pop, why are you doing all this? And this channel answered me back, and it said, well, because we have to turn off the lights and close the curtains because somebody could see that a single female is in the house alone, and they could come in here and murder me.
Actually, I lied. You know, it's a show that I did absolutely obsess over and watch several times was You.
There it is, with its big, naked windows. Jesus, it's like you've never seen a horror movie or the news.
It is moving day. I'm finally moving into my new apartment. This is a big open window. It provides a lot of natural light, which I love, but I just love these big open windows.
And I was like, based on my history, yeah, that checks out. And I asked it, why are we changing our clothes and washing our hands? And it didn't answer. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Maybe those actions weren't based in fear. Maybe those were based in something else. But yeah, it checks out that even in my apartment, living alone, I still didn't feel safe enough that I had to do these protective measures to ensure that I wasn't gonna get killed. And so every day, day by day, noticing my actions, taking note of my thoughts, I realized that I was just on constant alert all the time. It was just an incessant, relentless foreboding that something bad was going to happen. Now, it's important to note that again, during this time, I couldn't feel my body still. I still was panicking the fact that like, I I can't feel anything going on in my body. Like, am I paralyzed? Clearly not paralyzed, but I have no sensations. I don't know what's happening. But because I was bringing so much attention to my thoughts and that was making me panic, I was like, you know what, my body's still functioning. We're gonna have to put that on the back burner because I don't even have time to deal with what's going on there. But I started going home and I started doing my research of, you know, what the heckaroo is going on in my noggin. And so I really found a lot of information, comfort, and solace in Reddit. And side note, but I love Reddit. I don't know why that's such a hot take for people. Like, people seem to love Reddit, but I did a lot of research and real discovery on Reddit, and it was so helpful because it actually gives you the human experience and firsthand accounts from people who actually went through it, as opposed to some scientific WebMD document. So keep in mind, a lot of this that I'm gonna mention throughout this whole series, I did a lot of research on Reddit. I don't like doctors. I did self-medication, self-diagnosis, and most of the time it was just matching up my symptoms with Reddit. So if you don't like that, sue me or change the YouTube channel. Anyways, and so I started seeing in my research the word hypervigilance come up a lot in my WebMD searches, in all of my Reddit searches, and it really started to make sense the more that I looked into it. So, hypervigilance is the state of heightened awareness and alertness where a person is constantly on guard for danger, even when there is little risk.
I'm a beer and wine drinker, but once I start, it's hard for me to stop sometimes.
You're an alcoholic.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what, oh, wow.
Yeah, I've heard that term in the past, but I didn't realize that that's what this was. And it also made a lot of sense because it's like, yeah, it never felt like anxiety is what I had. I was never worried. I was always on guard for danger. But what was also interesting in my research was the connection between hypervigilance and this idea of being stuck in freeze. So on Reddit a lot, in a lot of the subreddits, it kept saying like stuck in freeze, PTSD freeze, and hypervigilance was so closely related to it. And I was like, well, what's this freeze about? What's going on with this freeze? Do I have that? Well, let me read you what that is. So being stuck in freeze feels like physically or mentally being paralyzed, unable to move or react, often accompanied by a sense of numbness, detachment, and heaviness in the body. It can be a cold sensation or a feeling of being trapped or helpless, as if your body is frozen in place, unable to respond to a situation due to overwhelming stress or threat. Bingo, baby! That's what was going on in my brain and body. I knew I wasn't crazy. So I just start doom scrolling. I just start going through all the research going, oh my God, this is it. I'm hypervigilant because I'm stuck in freeze. I can't feel my body because I'm stuck in freeze. I'm so detached and numb from my mind and my body that I've just completely dissociated throughout life, and I have been automating everything because I was frozen. My face froze and my body froze because I was literally stuck in freeze. Hallelujah, something that finally makes sense. And so then my Chinese spy on TikTok was listening to me apparently and reading all of my searches because I started getting TikToks about being stuck in freeze.
I just watch myself wasting all my time and I can't stop. Why is that? Even under so much stress, your body feels threatened and your nervous system is going into shutdown. In animals, this looks like playing dead. And in humans, it looks like being completely unmotivated, exhausted, and burnt out. I feel like I'm just lazy. It's not that you're lazy, it's your body trying to protect itself. When we get stuck in freeze, our body is immobilized. All we want to do is lay down. Our heart rate slows and our thinking is hazy. Even though we want to do chores or get work done, all we can do is scroll on our phones or watch ourselves not getting anything done. Welcome to my life.
And the more I got these TikToks, the more I was like, check, check, check. All of that relates to me. Now, the type of freeze that I was researching that I really resonated with and that really just connected all the dots, crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and checked all of the boxes was a type of freeze that is caused by trauma. And once I started looking into that, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because something very traumatic did happen to me. And it's something that I never thought I would share on social media. It's something that I, put in my ideas list of, hey, if I ever feel real confident and real ready to share this story, I will, because I think it's important. And I never felt ready to tell this story because I was never ready to even deal with the trauma itself. But unfortunately, something very traumatic did happen to me, and it did give me PTSD. And at this time, it's what I was thinking was causing this freeze. But for years, I kind of just buried it away. I knew that I had PTSD, but I didn't really feel like I had it. It didn't feel like it was affecting me in traditional ways that you hear about. I never got help for it because I don't like doctors, but because I never felt like I needed help. It was kind of like I just buried it away, pretended like nothing was wrong, and because of that, nothing was wrong. But now it was like all the lights were shining on everything that I was doing, and it was like served on a platter of, JC, do you see now how it's been affecting you? How you've had this constant stream of thoughts and needing to protect yourself at all times? That you may have buried it away, but it's been there the whole time. I saw how on a deep subconscious level, I always felt the need to protect myself. And it's because of this event. And I think I'm finally ready to share that story. So that's gonna be it for episode 2 of Shadow Brains, where I did not even realize that I was completely subconsciously and automatically hypervigilant in everything that I did. Do you guys struggle with hypervigilance? Is this something you guys can relate to? Because I don't know if it's just me, but I saw so many stories on Reddit where people also didn't even realize they were doing it. So I want to hear from you guys if it's something that you've experienced and how you even dealt with it and how you overcame those feelings of constantly needing to protect yourself. Because I kind of foreshadowing here, went to a lot of therapy to make sure I didn't have to do it ever again. But make sure to subscribe for future episodes in this series. Again, they'll all be standalone episodes of some of the things that I dealt with, but you can follow along the whole journey if you want to see it all the way through. So hit that subscribe button so that way you're notified of my next video where I'm gonna get pretty personal, and I'd appreciate all the support I could get. And speaking of support, you can follow me on my other social media channels, but I just want to thank you guys so much for your support, for tuning into this video, and hopefully for catching some of my future episodes. But I will see you guys in the next one. Toodles!